Hello, hello, everybody. We're coming off a UFC travel card at UFC Tampa. And I don't know about you, but I was pretty happy after the card. I was pretty happy because I went undefeated. And this, I'm not going to lie, this has not happened in a hot second. It's been a while since I hit everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fights. Undefeated. Thank you very much. And came away with a nice tidy profit off of the betting winnings I made. I'm probably gonna actually make this a part of the whole thing where when I do the recaps talking about the betting winnings because you know what, you got to blag sometimes. $4,566.02. Not a single bet failed. Thank you very much. Both parlays cleared. We did the job. We did the deal. Turned a very, very small, meager little betting account of a couple of $100 into a $4,000 payout. Not bad at all. Now, let's talk about the fight quality here. Obviously, the main event, not very good. I don't know how to break it to you, but in 2024, you really should not be expecting much out of Colby Covington. You probably, honestly, shouldn't be expecting all that much out of Cub Swanson and Billy Quarantillo, but that was a perfectly fine fight. That was a good fight. Manel Cop, Bruno Silva, a little bit one-sided. Dustin Jacoby, Vitor Petrino was a little bit of a snoozer. It came alive at the end. And then talking about fights that came alive at the end, Daniel Marcos and Adrian Yanez actually kind of died down at the end when they got tired. And the first two rounds were far better. Navajo Sterling had a bit of a flat debut, but it is to be expected. Tuco Tokos is like a reasonably durable guy. Michael Johnson as Zaitar was predictable. Alvarez versus Jakar Closa, that was dope. That was a solid first round finish. Sean Woodson, Fernando Padilla, that was also pretty fun. Lima versus Johns, kicked ass. Maverick versus Horth, that was a bit of a snoozer for the card. Davey Grant versus Tavares was good. And Piera Rodriguez was the score one for me because I don't know. People were stunned that she could out wrestle Josephine Knutsson. And to those people, I don't know what to tell you. Just like the guy who on Twitter right now is arguing with me that Vicente Luque is still absolutely in his prime. For some reason, he's arguing this. Whatever. I will happily pick up another big underdog bet on Luque. Against Luque, I should say. Like I did with Jeff Neal and like I did with Buckley. Actually, I got Buckley at underdog odds against Luque. I'll do that again. I'll do it again. do the crazy looking Tomcat, animated Tomcat. I'll tell you what, I'll do it again. All over again. There you go. All right, let's talk about the fights. Colby Covington, Joaquin Buckley. Buckley is shot, and that's really all I can say about this. Like when you're coming out and you were the gift of the gab guy. You were the charismatic guy. That was your thing. You were not an exciting fighter, not a dope, overpowering physical force. You were the guy who got the fights, got your profile, elevated your stock with your gift of gab and your ability to connect with a admittedly very dumb audience. And you're coming out with Hulk Hogan and Chael Sonnen to try to rekindle that. You're done. You're just so done. And I'm going to briefly defend Chael Sonnen here for a hot second because people are making fun of him for not having any suggestions in the corner, really. Like they put the camera on him and he wasn't talking and he was the corner guy. And it was like, what are you doing? I don't know what Chael Sonnen's supposed to tell Colby Covington. Like realistically, it's the complete wrong coach for anything. Like Chael Sonnen is not a terrible coach. Like remember his Ultimate Fighter with John Jones? It's not horrible. Dude has, again, I very dislike Chael Sonnen because he gave birth to the Colby Covingtons and all this cringe pro wrestling heel, but supposedly face pro America bullcrap that I really can't stand. But he's got a mind for fighting, and I just don't know what he's supposed to do with Colby Covington at all. Covington got lit up on the feet. He got busted up. He got cut up badly above the eye, was bleeding quite badly. And yeah, there were some takedowns. He got some things done. He let's see here. Let's let the stats kind of speak for themselves, shall we here? Okay. So Covington's best round would have been the second round where he landed 25 strikes, scored a takedown, and had 1 minute and 28 seconds of top control. He had no takedowns in the first, landed 10 strikes. He had no takedowns in the third, landed 36 strikes, mostly because Buckley was doing some weird things with that, with like sub attempts and things. Actually, kind of like allowed himself to be put on his back, which is, we'll talk about him in a second. But like, there were no solutions. Buckley is a guy whose career was based on activity, aggression, raw self-belief that he could not be killed. And now he knows he can be killed in the octagon. He knows he can be knocked out. He knows he can be hurt. He knows he can be finished. And ever since that point, that first Usman fight, basically, he's not been the same. He could still win fights. I think this ties in with the whole, like, what I was talking about with Luque before, where it's like, you can be washed and still win fights. You can beat other washed fighters. For example, looking at you, George Masvidal and Tyron Woodley, who are the only 2 wins Covington has in the time period that we are talking about. But he looks completely unable to find his way into a fight with a Leon Edwards, who wasn't fighting very well, and now Joaquin Buckley, and then before that, obviously, the second Usman fight. It is over. It is Quitsville. I don't have an opponent for him. Please go away. There are those suggesting Wonderboy Thompson. I don't want to see that fight. I have zero interest in the fight. I don't know what Wonderboy would have interest in that fight. So please, Covington, go away. I don't even want to hate watch you get like punished and beat down. I do not want to do that. I just want you gone. He won't be gone because he still has like tangential links to the whole MAGA movement, but so we'll see him again. But no, he should not be doing anything. For Buckley, there were some bad decisions, some things that he put himself in danger, but like it was with the confidence that he would get out of it, and he did. So like it's not the problem it would otherwise be. Like it's very clear that as much as I think his 170 run is the product of him fighting fighters who are just not very good, or either were never very good or are no longer very good. Like you look at the run and it's Colby Covington, it's Wonderboy Thompson, it's Nursultan Ruziboev, it's Vicente Luque, it's Alex Morono, it's Andre Fiallo. Andre Fiallo, never all that good. Morono always had physical limitations. Luque, good fighter, but on the decline. Ruziboev, not a good fighter. Someone asked me actually, is Ruziboev not a good fighter? And I'm like, no, dude is a grab bag of like ineffective mismatched skills. Like he's huge and he's powerful. Like he can win fights, but his way of winning fights is going to be randomly finishing people, not putting together like any kind of like comprehensive like performance. And then of course Wonderboy and Covington, like I said, are very, very much old former title contenders, but are very much done. And that is part of the success. But at the same time, it's also the fact that dude does look big at 170. Like he went from being a small, athletic, explosive, and having to take a lot of risks, a lot of chances just to get in range at 185. And at 170, he's the guy who can punish people at range, which is dope. And like I said, he comes up with reasonably good game plans. This was a bit of an exception because I think he kind of actually did not have a great game plan for dealing with Buckley or with Covington. It's just Covington had nothing for him. But yeah, it's not a great performance, but hey, it's a W, and it shows the danger level he has. He is powerful, he is fast, he is explosive, he is strong. He seems to actually be working on like some grappling tricks and so on. So, that when he was underneath Covington couldn't really do anything. So, phenomenal performance in that regard. Bad call out. I don't mind the whole like, I got a couple of call outs. Let's see what the fans want. Let's see what the fans are in for. Like, I get that. I actually think that that's not a bad idea. But the 3 choices he had, Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, and Bilal Muhammad, a title shot. You're not getting the title shot, so waste. You just fought Colby Covington. Please do not fight another old man in Usman. And Leon Edwards is the best call out of the bunch, so it's the one I would pencil in here as his next opponent. But I don't know. Leon Edwards is kind of a guy who himself is coming off of a, rather bad performance. Like I don't want to crap on Bilal Muhammad too much, but the fact that Bilal Muhammad was able to do what he did against Leon Edwards does point towards some problems going on with Edwards' game right now, trying to put it together and everything. So like, I want to see Buckley fight somebody at like the top of their game. So I've got the winner of Jack Della Maddalena and Usman, under the assumption that it will be Jack Della Maddalena. That's what I would prefer. But you know what? If Usman goes out there and actually does beat Jack Della Maddalena, maybe he does actually still have something to offer, and it makes it a worthwhile fight to put him in there with Buckley. So there you go. And like I said, Covington, I've got nothing. Excuse me. Cub Swanson, Billy Quarantillo. This went basically like I thought it would, although I did have Quarantillo making it to the final and getting decisioned. But at the end of the day, Cub Swanson was able to largely beat him up on the feet and do his thing. Quarantillo was putting the pressure on. He was willing to engage. The quantity of strikes is pretty close. 40 to 37 in the first round in favor of Cub, 54-48 in favor of Cub, and then 22 to 20 in the third round. So like we ended up with like a 6 strike difference. So like it wasn't one-way traffic or anything, but like Quarantillo's only real success, I thought, like moments there, was when he was able to get his 3 takedowns. Wasn't able to control Cub all that much. Cub was able to stuff a lot of the takedowns and do his thing. Basically, again, the only people who have ever comprehensively out-wrestled Cub are really, really good wrestlers and athletes. And Quarantillo, not really either of those. So I didn't think that was really on the table. And on the feet, like I said, competitive, so on. But like at every stage, it looked like Cub was hurting Quarantillo far worse than Quarantillo was hurting Cub. That's the thing. At no point during the striking exchanges was I like, you know what? The consequences of these strikes, kind of the same thing. No. The consequences of Cubs were always very, very much higher, which makes sense. Cub is, like it or not, one of the better strikers in the history of the featherweight division. He is, again, for the MMA native type guys of his generation, he was fantastic. And it shows up here because Quarantillo is not a great striker. Quarantillo is he's a volume guy who breaks you and makes you tired. And despite being 41 years of age, that's not how you beat Cub Swanson. So Cub, I would hope, would retire after this, and he hinted at it, and then he didn't commit to it, and now he's talking about maybe fighting Du Ho Choi for a second time. If he's gonna fight, that's a perfectly fine option. I have no problem, but I would really prefer he retire. Not because he's become sad to watch or whatever. Like, he's a guy who's definitely in decline, but his style actually, has held up reasonably well. Like, he doesn't have much in the way of like embarrassing performances. Like he's not without them. That Jonathan Martinez fight, for example, when he went down to 135. Oh boy, that was bad. But like aside from that, he had a close loss to Andre Fili. He had a knockout loss to Giga Chikadze. That is what it is. It's Giga. He's beaten Kron Gracie, Daniel Pineda, Darren Elkins, Hakeem Dawodu, and now Billy Quarantillo. It's a perfectly fine run. And then like going back, like you have a split decision with Shane Burgos. You did have a submission loss to Renato Moicano, but hey, Frankie Edgar, Brian Ortega, etc. But yeah, like, dude, for a guy that I kind of thought was kind of in like relatively low decline back in like 2017, 2016, 2015, to see him still going is, it's pretty impressive and still looking like fine. I don't feel bad about watching him fight, but like what I'm getting at is I would hope that he's made enough money. And that if his wife wants him to retire, and if he's at least entertaining the notion, that it would be an option to walk away from MMA and be happy, and live happily ever after, basically. That would be my hope. So there you go. Mano Cop versus Quarantillo, I've got against Darren Elkins, because how has that fight not happened? Mano Cop versus Bruno Silva. I don't really have a lot to say about this one. It was not the bad fight I was kind of worried about when I was predicting this one. I was like, I'm taking Cop all the way. But there is a possibility that these two guys who are predominantly counter fighters might just not give each other enough to work with. And we might get a dull one. That was not the case. Cop went out there and he beat Bruno Silva up quite badly. The most successful strike Silva had was a trio, count them 3, low blows that he landed on Mano Cop. And finally got a point deducted. So, by the way, the commentary was trying to, like, throughout the night, there was like a thread going on whenever there was a foul. They're like, the refs are trying to take this a lot more seriously. And like, they're trying to be like, well, the warning was in the back. Where that doesn't work when they're giving like 2, 3, 4 warnings in a fight, guys. Like, just accept it. Your refs are either unwilling or don't have the confidence that they're allowed to take points very quickly. And pick one or the other, go with it. But like, please stop trying to make it seem like they're like people like Keith Peterson are no nonsense guys who are they're totally serious about this warning and they're gonna take a point, because they're not. We know this. Like we all know this. Cop was too fast for him, able to manage the range quite a bit better. Also, by the way, at the beginning of the third round, there was also, I think, maybe a eye poke by Silva, because there was a moment in the beginning of the third round where Silva lands a shot, and it looks like it affects Cop in a way that, let's just say, nothing else really had. And then you had a little flurry there from Silva. It was like his biggest moment of the fight, basically. And then Cop took it back and started, fighting back on him. Good body work, good activity. Like this was actually Cop firing a lot of shots here. If I were to guess, this is probably one of Cop's highest outputs in a 3-round fight. He landed 111 significant strikes. And I'm pretty much correct on that. The only time he's landed more than that was his decision win against Felipe Dos Santos, which, if you remember, was Dos Santos just basically running at him, being like, "No, motherfucker, we going to fight. We going to fight on Friday." And, forcing him into that. But like everything else is like 20 significant strikes, 58 significant strikes, 53, 19, 61, 49. So yeah, this was a form that we have rarely seen from him. And he went out there and he put it to him, and then might have gotten away with a low blow himself in the final sequence with Manel Cop, where maybe he hit him in the balls. But at the same time, I do have to say he ate 3 low blows himself, and it's not like I thought Silva was coming back. I guess technically speaking, you never know. But I guess on the level of fouls, this one felt more karmatic than anything else. So Manel Cop gets the job done. Afterwards, he would like you all to know to F Kai Kara-France, F Brandon Moreno, and for some reason Israel Adesanya. Didn't really get that point. He asked for a title shot. I don't think you give it to him. I think you give him Kai Kara-France at a title fight. Now, to be clear, let me make this quite clear. They are both guys that have lost to Pantoja. So there is that on the table. That is the predominant problem with either of them getting a title shot, is that they have both got losses to the champion. Now, Brandon Moreno does as well. Brendan Royval does. So there's very, very little to do with that. But I would say that after giving your boy, Alexander Pantoja, a title shot, a title defense against like Steve Erceg, who is pretty good, and I do like him, but doesn't really feel like a guy who was ready for that moment at that time. And on top of that, you've got the fact that he also had to defend against a newcomer, Hakai Asakura, who the hardcores know and love and think is a very exciting addition to this division, but that the guys who only watch UFC do not know. I think you want to build up Pantoja's next fight. Like, I think that's only fair. One, Pantoja has had a pretty hefty schedule, so I think some time off would be a good idea. Get him fresh, get him ready, and, in the meantime, put something into trying to hype this Kai Kara-France Manel Cop fight. Bring it together. The winner gets a title shot. There you go. That's what I would do. And then for Silva, I've got Alan Nascimento, just because it would be fun. Dustin Jacoby versus Vitor Petrino. This is one of the fights that I was actually a little bit off on, because I thought a key to this fight would actually be Jacoby utilizing the fact that Petrino is a kind of gun-shy outside striker now, that he doesn't do enough, that he's low output, that he, for example, would go to a decision with Tyson Pedro, and if memory serves, and I'm going to verify, possibly get outstruck by the low output that is Tyson Pedro. Yeah, I'm not misremembering that. He got outstruck by Tyson Pedro. In terms of strictly the number landed. I want to make that clear. So, I was that's how I thought he would win. And it turns out that he was actually going to more or less fight at Petrino's pace, and like they were both kind of waiting to counter each other, sort of thing, and make that be their big thing. And then in the third round, Jacoby just deads Petrino. Boom. Puts him down. I had it 1 round apiece heading into the third round. So I was a bit wrong on the flow of the fight, but at the end of the day, I was kind of right about Vitor Petrino that, like, right now he's going through some stuff. And he might come out the other side of that really good. He might. He legitimately might. But I have my doubts. And I will probably not be picking him against anybody with like a competent well put together A game of any kind in the UFC until I see that transformation, that cocoon, that chrysalis actually get broken and do the thing. Jacoby, I've got against the loser of Walker and Guskov. That's Bogdan Guskov and Johnny Walker. And for Petrino, I've got Devin Clark because at this point, I'm questioning whether Petrino has anything. And like, okay, at least Clark will kind of clinch him up, and we'll see if like the power in the clinch is actually like something to build on, or if it's not even. Daniel Marcos versus Adrian Yanez. This was a good fight for 2 rounds, and then the third round, Marcos got tired and just started kind of doing the Diaz stroll to the fence, if you know what I mean. And Yanez was unable to punish him. He was unable to just kind of like corner him and just like start unloading. Maybe he was like really tired or whatever, but he would just get clinched up and like, smothered by Marcos repetitively. And that was kind of frustrating. That kind of soured what was otherwise a good fight. But like I basically had the dynamic here pretty correctly in the sense that Yanez doesn't really have defensive answers for what Marcos does, and he didn't, and that he didn't have enough different looks to really overload the defensive bandwidth of Marcos that makes him go low output sometimes. That didn't happen. So instead, we got a fairly consistent offensive output game for Marcos. Now, what I will say is Marcos needs to kick more. He had a lot of success when he low kicked Adrian Yanez in the early going of this fight, and then it kind of just stopped. In fact, I think Yanez, I'm pretty sure Yanez ended up with like way more body kicks. Yeah, here we go. Low kick numbers. Marcos had 11 in the first round and then 6 the rest of the fight. What are we doing here, man? What are we doing, my man? So that would be my major critique about Marcos is that your low kicking game is actually really good when you go to it. That should be a priority. That should be something that you utilize a lot more than you're doing. And historically has done more with that, I think. Let's see here. What did he do against Castaneda? Curiosity. Yeah, he did it against Castaneda too, where he had like really good success in the first round and then discontinued it. So like, yeah, this is a pattern with Marcos where he goes away from that. And I would like to see that stop because the dividends of a low kick game is like the continuous application of it, the volume application of the whole thing. And he's not following through on that. So here's hoping that his coaches see the same thing I'm doing. So Marcos versus Kyler Phillips is a fight I've called for before, and I'm calling for it again. Yanez, I've got against Yan Matsumoto. It's a big step up from Matsumoto, who has not really fought anyone near that level. I think his best one is Brad Katona, if I'm recalling correctly. So that'd be a big deal, but like I have a lot of confidence in the kid, so let's see what happens. Tukatokos versus Navajo Sterling. I don't have much to say, honestly. Like, at no point did Tokos have, like, effective offense in this fight. He was getting pounded quite a bit. He just kind of would half guard or high guard walk into Sterling shots and get pretty beat up. I wonder, what did they even credit him for strikes? Yeah, he was outlanded about 2-1 per UFC stats, about 3-1 in total strikes, and outlanded heavily to the body, by the way. Sterling with 37 shots to the body. My hero. You know I love my body work. So was it a good performance from Sterling? Not especially, but like his best round was the third round, so that's good news. That means that the cardio is there. That means that he can build offense and get better as the fight goes on. That's good. He is very, very, very raw. This was his 6th pro fight in MMA. He has a couple of kickboxing bouts, but like not too many even. Not even like a super deep kickboxing career. So I'm not surprised. Tokos is also like one of the few guys who's like as big as him and like who is, pretty durable and like has composure. Cause like say what you want about Tokos. He is down to scrap. Like he is down to take a shot and keep coming. So that was, there were positives, I guess is what I'm saying. The building into the action, the not being intimidated by a guy who doesn't go away. That is good. The takedown defense was reasonable. I thought that the action was, relatively the right things to do, but Toko still did get 3 out of 9 takedowns. So I think that's still a area of improvement that is needed. But yeah, somebody did ask on Twitter why they would sign Navajo Sterling and why it would be a good move. The problem is that 205, and this goes for middleweight and heavyweight as well, the regional scene just does not develop these guys. It just will not, because the ability to find athletic dudes that size regionally on a regular basis is very, very difficult. If you really need the proof, like go watch like Dana White Contender Series 205 fights and then realize how many of the guys they bring in are just like not even physically the level of UFC light heavyweights. And in some cases, not even the size of light heavyweights. And it like kind of goes the same with middleweight and obviously heavyweight. Like you just can't trust it. So unfortunately, for guys like this, the UFC has to develop them, and they're not great at it. I would put him in there against Brinson Hibero next. Hibero is reasonably fast, reasonably tall, reasonably long, and will hopefully put Sterling out of his comfort zone a little bit. Tokos against Dana White Contender Series guys is really all he's good for. Michael Johnson knocked out Otman Azaitar. Azaitar did not. It's like I said, Azaitar was like a small underdog in this fight, and I didn't really understand why. Made some money off of it, but so I guess I shouldn't complain. But he's just not a fighter. I guess that's it. Like he's a bully. Like his entire career is beating just like very bad fighters. Like don't get me wrong, the Azaitars both have like the physical means to be good fighters, but like they kind of took up fighting to kind of legitimize their extra legal enterprises, and then to become friends with like the rich and famous, such as the Prince of Morocco. And now fighting is kind of like just an extension of kind of maintaining that image, I guess, in a nutshell. And yeah, Michael Johnson is like capable of losing to some way worse fighters than himself, but like not in the way that the Azaitars generally do it. And yeah, Johnson was kind of just beating him up. Actually, the strike counts apparently were like very, very, very similar. So apparently Johnson only landed 11 strikes in the first round, but it felt way more in his favor, like that he was faster and just the way better technical striker. And Azaitar didn't offer like any kind of takedown threat, didn't even try. And yeah, it's what I'm going to go with. Azaitar was also very, very low on strikes landed, like 28%, which is not great. And got flatlined in the second round. I will say Michael Johnson talking about, I'm coming back. I'm coming back to the top. That's not happening, my man. Don't. No. No. I've got Esteban Ribovic as a good opponent, though, for him. And Azaitar, I do not care. And I'm not entirely convinced that Azaitar cares. Joel Alvarez versus Jakar Closa. Closa was lighting up, or Closa was getting lit up quite a bit. He goes for a nice slam takedown, gets it, fends off at Alvarez choke. But then Alvarez works his way back to the feet along the fence. Eventually starts taking over, walking him down, landing shots, hits him with a jump knee after stunning him with a punch, grabs a front headlock, starts landing some shots, and cool finish. Nice. Kind of like a submission plus a knockout. That's neat. And he did the job, he did the deal. I've got him against Charles Radke at 170 because at the end of the fight, he said that 170 was probably going to be a goal for him, which makes sense. Dude is 6'3". What are you doing at lightweight, my guy? Like 6'3" is like a 205 or a middleweighter's height, and he's not that small. Like he's way thinner than like Close. Obviously, Close is a thick boyo, but I thought that was a bit that's a good move in a nutshell. So I've got Charles Radke, and then Close I've got against Matt Frivola. Sean Woodson, Fernando Padilla. Fernando Padilla tried to walk down Woodson. It didn't not work. He landed some shots, and he ended up getting a guard position where he started working like mission control and crackhead control, and Michael Bisping was having real fun with that. There was an omoplata attempt. That's kind of cool. But like at the end of the day, Johnson just kind of, or Woodson, pardon me, just kind of, flows through it. He's fine, gets back to the feet, starts pumping the 1-2s. Padilla has no head movement. And that's what I meant when I said that like fighting a taller fighter is a death sentence to him. It's not that he fights on the back foot at range, because somebody was trying to bring that up like, well, he does pressure and he does come forward. Yeah, but his game is still very much about the insulation being taller and reach and having greater reach. And against Woodson, who is taller than him and has 2 inches extra reach, that don't work. He got exploited for that. He was even like falling down and so on, getting his legs kicked out. There you go. And then Padilla gets rocked, pounded out with like 5 seconds to go on the clock. I think the stoppage was at like 4:58 of the first round, if I'm not entirely mistaken. Yeah. 2 seconds left on the clock. Gets the job done. Sean Woodson with the W with the stoppage. I have him against Giga Chikadze. I have Padilla against Morgan Charrier because he has the right kind of violence to hopefully actually bring something out of Charrier. Miles Johns versus Felipe Lima. Didn't get to watch this one live, really. The internet was kind of cutting out at this point, and obviously had to go back and watch it later. But like basically, Lima outworked Johns quite a bit. Got some takedowns mixed in there as well. Just looked really, really good. He looks fast. He looks like the real deal. And I was a little bit worried when he got signed. He was fighting Naimov, and I picked Naimov to beat him. And it's like he's a little too small, and he should get down to 135. Which he's going to do eventually, although ironically, this is another 145 fight, but against a 135er in Miles Johns. But yeah, Johns' predictability and like very, very, very textbook nature is going to lose him a lot of fights to fighters like this who can have the physicality to back it up and also creativity. And that's basically what happened. So I gave Lima the fight. He got the job done. He did the deed. And I've got Willie Cat Santos for him. And I've got Johns against Cameron Simon because Cameron Simon is a guy who I think might be able to do some of what Lima did here, but worse. And at the same time, I kind of need to see what happens when he fights somebody on this level. That being said, he is on a 2-fight losing skid. He lost to Christian Rodriguez and Peyton Talbot. So maybe they want to give him a confidence builder, but I do think that would be a good fight. Jamie Lynn Horth versus Miranda Maverick was one-sided, but yet uninspiring. Maverick clearly had the physicality to do like a lot of what she wanted to do with Horth, and Horth didn't really have a way of fighting back, and yet still somehow had like relatively competitive rounds. Like you're looking at total strikes of 21-20 in Horth's favor, 22-15 in Horth's favor, and 26-20 in favor of Maverick. So like when you have that kind of like dominance physically speaking, I think you should do more with it, I guess, in a nutshell. And she wasn't able to do that at any point, and Horth wasn't able to threaten her at any point. And it was just a physical test thing. And the unfortunate thing is that Maverick obviously has immense physical potential and like even technical potential. And she's just not putting it together. And it doesn't seem like the Elevation Fight Team or whatever Elliot Marshall's crew is called now is at all a good spot for Miranda Maverick. So she might need to just, I don't know, she might need to just go out of the way, go somewhere else to unlock the full potential. The bright side, she's still only 27. She's still got time. She's still got the physicality, and I would be game to see her try a different camp, which is weird because I have a lot of respect for that camp, but like it just does not seem to be clicking. I've got Maverick against Tracy Cortez. It's a fight that's been danced around before, so let's do it. And for Horth, I've got Dana White Contender Series girls because that's kind of all she really has. She's a 34-year-old who doesn't have a particularly like high-paced action game and doesn't have like particularly the great athleticism to really like go much higher. But like she is a good sounding board for incoming fighters because she will make it gritty, she will make it like dirty and so on, and like you're not going to have an easy time with her. Like if Miranda Maverick can't blow her out, then and her other fights have not been blown outs by any stretch of the imagination against Veronica Hardy, Ivana Petrovich, and Haley Cowan. It's just a good sounding board, but it's that's all it is. Speaking of sounding boards, Davey Grant proved yet again, and I don't understand how I got even money on Davey Grant. I don't. He outworked Tavares heavily in this fight. He was landing a lot of nice kicks. He was landing some creativity. There was body work. There was head work. There was leg work. It is all there. All three levels of the game. He was able to counter Tavares effectively. He was able to land at range effectively. He was able to land in the pocket effectively. He was able to land in the clinch effectively. It was a masterful performance. albeit one that doesn't really matter because I just don't think Tavares is very good. And like the main thing about Tavares is I think that he doesn't have anywhere near the volume he needs because like he landed 12 strikes in the first round. That is unacceptable for a guy who, realistically speaking, is an action fighter at this weight class and is going to have to just do a lot more than he has historically done to get things right. Now, how old is he again? He's 30. Maybe there's not really anything to turn it around here. I'm kind of I remember looking at his pre-UFC record and it's pretty bad. Yeah, here we go. His pre-UFC record is a 1-0 Christopher Wingate, 2-6 Ginseng Dujour, 3-4 Carlos Guerra, 3-13 Anthony Tisdale. What is it about everybody with the last name Tisdale in MMA being a complete can? What is the deal with that? Is that name like cursed? Anyways, losing to 5-5 Edward Massey by knockout in 34 seconds, beating a 4-3 Ryan Mondala, 8-6 Martin Day. That's probably the best one he's has. And then, oh no, he knocked out he did knock out Felony Crazy Horse Bennett, but like Crazy Horse is 45 years old now. And you knocked him out in 2023. So that's got very little value. And also like, Crazy Horse, even in his prime, very, very beatable. 5-5, James Dunn. And then he had the 1-1 split on the Contender Series, losing to Series City and beating Cortavius Romeus, who is not very good. Controversial split decision win over Series City and now the loss to Davey Grant. I think, unfortunately, he's just not that good, is what it comes down to. And he's a little bit too old to find his groove. He's still fun enough. I'm not asking for him to retire. I'm not asking for the UFC to cut him. But there is definitely some shortcomings here that are probably never really going to be addressed. So I've got Grant against Charles Jourdain, or maybe Chris Gutierrez, but both of those might be a little bit too high up. But like at 38 years old, I want to see Davey Grant fight like guys that are like that is going to excite me, that is going to get me amped for a fight, not guys like Tavares, I guess in a nutshell. Tavares versus Dana White Contender Series guys, because that's really all he's got. And then Piera Rodriguez versus Josephine Knutsson to open up the card here. And I don't know if people, I don't know. I don't know if I was just watching the wrong fights or whatever, but like I didn't have as high a value on Knutsson as everybody else. And I had a way higher thought on Piera Rodriguez. Don't get me wrong. Piera Rodriguez is a fundamentally flawed fighter against anybody who has like grappling answers for her, because she will not avoid those answers at all. She is the type of person who decides to take down Jillian Robertson, for example, which is a bad idea. But against somebody who predominantly wants to strike with her, she's just going to and doesn't have the explosive speed or size or power to back her up. She's just going to crash into her a bunch of times and take her down. And that is basically what happened. Knutsson had some good get-ups. She had some reasonable first-level takedown defense. But, like, she got taken down 8 times. And that's basically what I thought was going to happen. I don't know why Knutsson was the prohibitive favorite here, and why people are surprised by it. Honestly, like I don't know. I'm very, very puzzled by the fandom response to this. But hey, I'll take the money. Anyways, for Rodriguez, I've got Ketlin Souza because it's another winnable fight for her. But it's somebody who will have some answers as a grappler and not just be a blank canvas for her to shoot on. And for Knutsson, I've got Elise Reed. So there you go. That was the fight card. Went undefeated. Check down below for the links to my social medias, my video gaming stuff, other places you can find this podcast. And for the next UFC card, we do have a break for a bit here because we got Christmas and so on. I might do podcasts during Christmas. I don't know. It depends. If you've got good ideas for me to do, please present them. There is Usyk versus Fury coming up in this week, but I'm not amazed by that fight because I've seen it once, and I don't really think much has changed. Like that's my gut feeling, that like there just hasn't been enough time to really make this rematch really like sink into my brain. But hey, It is something to do. It's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be fun. There are other good fights on the card. There are other good prospects on the card that I'm looking forward to seeing. But yeah, there won't be a breakdown of that or anything like that. So who is this Daniel Lappin guy, and what is with that hair? Good Lord. Let's see, 10-0 boxer. Fought on the Fury Usyk 1 card. Okay. Also fought on Usyk Dubois. Usyk Joshua 2. Joshua Usyk as well. All right. This guy's doing some things. I don't know. He just caught my attention because his Tapology picture is him in like a Road Warrior style jacket with like the Ukrainian dyed flag hair, which it just caught my eye. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Whatever it is you celebrate. I don't really do the Christmas thing myself, but I know a lot of people do. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed.